includes NGOs, includes even people from the private sector who come to India for short-term courses in premier institutions of the country, who come and live and study in India. Like I said, for short-term courses, completely at our expense. We pay for the air tickets, we pay for their stay, to share our developmental experience with them. And this developmental experience is important because in the spirit of South-South cooperation and the spirit of India-Africa relations, we are happy to share our expertise and whatever experiences we have. The best thing about these courses is that these courses are not forced on people. These are tailor-made courses for the demand as it is projected to us. And like I said, this is where the role of our embassies comes in, that the local host governments approach us to say that we need training in field X, Y, or Z. And we make sure that we bring people from those countries to India and provide them the best of our training in the best of our institutions to help cater to their needs. We have also entered into e-education programs, and we are in the process of launching what we are calling as the e-Vidya Bharati program, in which we want to train and teach about 15,000 students in Africa over a period of the next 5 years using distance learning programs. We have 6 Indian universities who have partnered with the Government of India, and 19 African countries have already joined into this program, and we've been encouraging other countries to join in, so that students don't have to travel to India. They can get the degrees from the Indian universities while sitting in their own countries, and make use of the Indian education system to the best that they can. However, it is just not restricted to that. We have also established 8 vocational training centers. We've established 7 IT centers. We've established centers for geoinformatics applications. We have upgraded technology centers and other capacity building institutions all across the African continent. And this is something which is a continuing process. Like I pointed out, that we have projects worth over 200, and we have over 205 projects worth over $12 billion all across Africa. We also have grants that we have gifted to these countries, over $700 million in the past 5 years. I would like to draw your attention to the COVID period and the kind of assistance that we provided to the African countries during the COVID period. As is known that there is a huge shortfall of medicines and vaccinations all across the African continent. India, through its bilateral programs of assistance, as well as through the COVAX facility, has provided a huge number of vaccines to African countries. We also provided about 150 tons of medical aid, worth $5 million, which was given to 32 African countries, responding to their request for medical aid. And this is something that our Prime Minister has also pointed out from time to time, that India is indeed the pharmacy of the world because of our capacity to produce huge amounts of pharmaceutical products at very, very reasonable prices. And our ability to then, more than our ability, our willingness to share this feeling with our expertise with the rest of the world. Following the principle of what the PM has been saying about the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that is, the world is one family. We have been sharing our expertise and our resources with the African continent as a whole. An important element of our interaction with Africa also is our Indian diaspora. The Eastern and Southern Africa, especially, if you look at countries like South Africa, Kenya, Uganda, Mozambique, there is a huge number of Indian people who are present in these countries. In fact, it's a very nice thing to say that in Kenya, it's a country which has 40 tribes. and the number of Indians there is substantial. The government of Kenya has formally called the Indians as the 41st tribe of Kenya. Isn't that something very beautiful, that you have 40 tribes and all the Indians are now the 41st tribe in the country? I think it is these small gestures that really go a long way in building our diplomatic and our political relations with these countries. There is over 3 million strong Indian diaspora in the continent of Africa, which is spread across 46 countries and constitutes about 12% of the total Indian diaspora all across the world. The good thing about the Indian diaspora is that they have the capability and they have the tendency to merge with the local populations very easily. We are completely law-abiding people, and our experience has been that there is very little or almost nil participation of the Indians in criminal activities or wrong activities wherever they have gone, and they have done us they have provided us a lot of pride and a lot of help in these countries. Many of them have risen to become even presidents and prime ministers and ministers and members of the parliament. They have risen to become diplomats. They have risen to become governors. They have risen to become ambassadors, and they not only help their country which they belong to, but also act as bridges between India and these countries where they have gone to and they have settled. The future of Africa is bright. The future of Africa is something that the world is really looking forward to, and the reason for that, as I mentioned in the beginning, that the African continent with its 54 countries has a combined GDP of over $2.4 trillion and a population of more than 1.3 billion. It therefore offers a huge and a growing market to rising economies like India. Indian technology is absolutely welcome, and it is something which the African countries have adopted with great love. Because our products and our services, they meet the requirements of these countries. A new study that came out a few days back, it says that by 2050, at least 25% of the world population will be in Africa, compared to just 10% in 1950. Now, I want you to think about this a bit, that more than 25% of the world population is going to be in Africa. So you can well imagine that with the slowing growth rates of population in the European continent, or even in Asia, in the Americas, and in the America, including South America, the markets that will emerge in the future will be in Africa. However, it is nobody's guess that there is a lot of work that needs to be done. It is a continent which is short on infrastructure. It is a continent that needs infrastructure, and one study after the other has pointed out, and it's really it's anybody's educated guess that the lack of infrastructure or poor infrastructure continues to hinder the economic growth all across the African continent. Another aspect of this is the lack of connectivity between the countries, which is something that the African continent is now addressing. That to travel between one country to the other, one has to go back to somewhere in Europe and then fly back to the neighboring country, because the countries aren't connected with each other. This, of course, also has to do with the colonial legacy which these countries have to deal with. But it is something that the African continent has understood, and the African continent is now getting together. You can see greater amounts of integration between countries. There's greater linkages between countries, greater linkages between people, and the Pan-African kind of an identity is not only emerging, but is emerging very, very strongly. Africa is, one can safely say today, at the start of about a 20 to 30-year infrastructure development boom. And that is something which the Indian private sector has also understood. And you can see that there is a lot of interest in the African continent. Although the long-term investment is also a direct is directly dependent on the governance that the country offers. It also depends on the ability of the country to be able to absorb the infrastructure that is being built. The IMF, for example, has estimated that between 2021, which was last year, and 2025, the continent of Africa will need 285 billion US dollars just in the infrastructure sector, and this is the amount of requirement that the African continent can absorb, can reasonably absorb to help in the growth of the 54 countries that I spoke about. I think one development that we should take note of, as not only India, but I think other developing countries and other trade partners should also take note of, is the launch of the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is really a free trade area within the entire African continent. And that is something which has the potential to transform the landscape of Africa. From our side, we offer what is called as the duty-free. We offer a duty-free scheme to Africa, wherein the LDCs have access to about 98% of our tariff lines. They can trade with us at zero duty on under this scheme. This is something which is beneficial for both countries. India, with its about a 3 trillion economy, we want to be a 5 trillion economy, and that is not possible unless we have suitable markets, unless we have rising standards, not only in India but also we help other countries and to increase their standards of living. And the continent of Africa for that is the most likely candidate for increasing our cooperation in on various platforms. The We have, like I said, not only provided a lot of cooperation to Africa in infrastructure or in education, but also in a very vital field which is very important for any country in the world, and that is food security and agriculture. We have been assisting the continent of Africa, all countries, I would say, to upgrade their agricultural practices. And it is, as you all know, that India, which was till the 1970s was a food dependent country, is now a food exporting country. And we have huge buffer stocks that we not only sell across the world, we also gift it to several countries. I can say that in the past 5 years, we have donated to African countries. We have gifted food stuff, food aid worth over $15 million to various African countries. We have also, in our effort to support African agriculture, we have entered into agreements with Malawi and Mozambique to import pulses. And we are also negotiating with 2 other countries so that we can import pulses from there. Now, this kind of an arrangement is beneficial to both sides, because we have a shortage of pulses and we have a growing population whose protein requirement need to be met. And by entering into long-term arrangements with African countries, we spur economic growth in those countries, which gives them a definite market. It gives them a assured market. We meet our needs, and agriculture gets a fillip in those countries as well. Therefore, it's those kind of win-win situations which really has been the hallmark of our developmental relationship with the continent of Africa. I've already mentioned about the Indian diaspora, but it is something that we can also take great pride in, that during the COVID period. Even during the COVID period, we kept up our bilateral relations. We entered into air bubble arrangements with 5 African countries to make sure that even if travel normal life was suffering, we made sure to minimize the impact of our relationship with Africa. It is a relationship with a huge future. It is a relationship of the future. As I mentioned, that the growing countries today lie in the African continent. These are the countries which have a future. These are the countries not only as markets, but these are also countries which can develop their industries. These are the countries which have the potential to grow further, and we really want to synergize our efforts with these countries and grow together with these countries. Uh, with this, I think there is another aspect that I want to point out, that we have a lot of experience of, for example, in humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. It gives us great pride that our defense forces and our governmental effort contributed towards humanitarian assistance and disaster relief in tragedies such as the Idai storm in Mozambique in 2019. We have helped several countries in the region, including Madagascar, including Sri Lanka, Maldives. Indian ships were the first to reach, for example, Sri Lanka and Maldives after the tsunami. But even in the continent of Africa, we do a whole lot of peacekeeping operations. India has been a part of almost every peacekeeping operation that has been done in the African continent. We have very strong defense relations. I can share with the audience that in 2018 we gifted Mozambique 2 ships, what we call as a fast interceptor boats. We have gifted them 2 more in November of 2021 to help them counter insurgencies and for their anti-piracy operations. Our concept of today in terms of security, the entire eastern coast of Africa, like I said, is a part of our Indo-Pacific vision. It is nobody's. It's a zone which it's a part of the Indian Ocean, and the Indian Ocean is named after India, and therefore we rightfully should be the largest presence in the Indian Ocean. And it is a responsibility that we have been carrying out with great responsibility, carrying out operations against piracy, carrying out the safety and security of the sea lanes, of ensuring the security of global traffic in trade, in oil, in goods. There's a lot of responsibility that we bear as India in ensuring the safety and security of the Indian Ocean. And of course, the eastern coast of Africa is a natural corollary in that, is a natural partner for us to ensure that we have strong defense relations. The first ever India-Africa Defense Ministers Conclave was held in India in February 2020. It was supposed to be a precursor for the India-Africa Forum Summit. The India-Africa Forum Summit is the highest level political interaction that we have with the African continent, what we call as the Africa +1 model, wherein all the 54 countries of Africa talk to us on a whole range of issues. We've had 3 of the India-Africa Forum Summits till today. The first one was in 2008, the second one was in 2011, and the third was in 2015. We were supposed to have the 4th in 2020, and the Defense Ministers Conclave was a precursor, a preparatory meeting for that. However, unfortunately, it could not take place because of the COVID. But we are hopeful that we should be able to schedule the India-Africa Forum Summit within this year. In terms of our political relationship, I think this structure that the India-Africa Forum Summit provides is the top level interaction, which is headed where the Indian Prime Minister meets and interacts with the African heads of states to build stronger relations between the continent of Africa as a whole and India. With that, I think I will cease. I have spoken for about 40 minutes. I will leave the floor open for any questions, any comments. I'm happy to interact with you on Twitter or by email. Thank you very much, Professor, for the kind invitation. I will stop here and leave the floor open to the house for any questions that may have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your kind address and the structured deliberation that you provided. A lot of data and statistics make your oration really scientific. I just have, before opening the floor to other participants, I just want to know that, as you mentioned in your talk, that 6 universities of India are probably enlisted in the E-Vidya Bharati with 19 African countries. Can our university, because let me tell you that our founder president has a lot of focus on Africa also, and we have got a lot of African students in this university, and we have got a special plan to attract more African students in the coming years. So, number one, can we join in this E-Vidya Bharati? Please unmute yourself, sir. Please unmute.
Yeah, certainly. This is a very welcome suggestion. There are certain parameters that are being followed for the enlistment of the universities. I'll be happy to discuss this with you in greater detail over the during the week.
Sir. Okay, thank you. And another beautiful statistics, actually, I have also gone through that article, that in 2050, Lagos will be probably the most populous city in the world. So the kind of demographic dividend that Africa will provide in the next few years. So vis-a-vis Chinese capital, though we have got a very prominent Indian diaspora or Indian presence in different countries of Africa, but there the presence of China capital is outweigh the Indian diaspora. So what kind of strategy the Indian government is making, at least just to counter this Chinese hegemony? Because as I have seen in my own eyes, that the Entebbe-Kampala highway, the Chinese capital is absorbed there in a lot of ports and everywhere, even from Kampala to Jinja, the Chinese capital is there. So is there any specific plan by government of India to counter this Chinese hegemony, the Chinese capital's hegemony, rather, I will put it in that way?
Thank you. I was kind of expecting, I did not touch upon China intentionally in this, as this was a bilateral topic. The answer to your question is that we do not treat our relations with Africa, or for that matter, any other country, through the prism of a third country. There is no doubt that China is the so-called dragon in the room that we all should be aware of. But since you mentioned Uganda, I can tell you that what happened in November should raise the flags everywhere, where the parliament objected to the toxic clauses that were there in the agreement between China and Uganda for the upgradation of the Entebbe airport. The Chinese model of development is coming under severe scrutiny all across the world. It is a predatory kind of financing model which looks at long-term, placing your assets in the hands of the Chinese. For example, what happened in Sri Lanka, or what is happening in Djibouti. There have been a lot of opposition to the Chinese investments and the model of Chinese investment all across the African continent. There was a very strong opposition to the Chinese investment in Uganda, in Tanzania, in Djibouti, because the model of financing that they've been following it does not meet the standards of transparency. It does not meet the standards, the internationally accepted models of accountability, transparency. and it is always linked to something. And the link to something is a link to sovereignty. A lot of countries are now beginning to realize that this link between financing of projects and giving up on sovereignty is something that is not acceptable. The Chinese have been going about with the BRI, the initiative, the BRI, which is really project oriented, and they do the model that they work with is completely different. That when the Chinese take on the work, they not only invest, it is built by Chinese companies, it is built by Chinese labor, and the host country after that, in most cases, is unable to handle the infrastructure once that is created. Our model of development, on the other hand, is based on the requirements that are projected to us by the recipient government. So we, in the process, have ended up creating infrastructure such as dams, power stations, transmission lines. But these are based on the requirements which are projected to us by the host country, and these are done in accordance with the rules and regulations of the host country, and these are done in a transparent and open manner. In fact, a lot of countries today, the US, for example, is talking of build back a better future. The European Union is talking of the investment gateway. It is called. There, everybody is talking about models of development which comply with the transparency and accountability, and do not link sovereignty with financing and funding. Therefore, like I said, that they are doing their work and we are doing our work. We are expanding our footprint in Africa. We have embassies in 40 countries. We want to expand it further. We believe in people-to-people linkages. We believe in enhancing the capacities of the people. I said 23,000 students study here. We have close to 12,000 people from Africa who come to us for high-tech related courses. We have people, you can look at it from another perspective. Like I said, that we have a lot of people of Indian origin who have risen to be presidents, prime ministers, members of the parliament, ambassadors. How many countries, how many Chinese, for example, in Uganda or Kenya or anywhere else in the world have risen to positions of power and authority? I think our approach to development is the softer approach. It's a democratic approach. It's an approach which is based on rules and transparency within the democratic setup that we have. Therefore, it's never a question of competing with China. It's a question of contributing towards the growth of the African continent. And in the process, project ourselves as a better development partner than the Chinese ever will be. Thank you.
Very nicely explained, sir. Very nicely explained, actually. Actually, I saw the statue of the Mahatma on the banks of the origin of Nile at Jinja, and that summed up our development plan. You are very right. And I did not know that our Prime Minister addressed the Ugandan Parliament in 2018. So I think we must have very good relationship with also Uganda. And we have got a lot of Ugandan students, and Ugandan students are very much attracted towards our university. So thank you very much for explaining my questions in a very broader perspective. Now I'll request other audience, our student participants, to kindly take advantage of this occasion, because he is an expert in Eastern South Africa. So you can put some questions. Yes, Professor Pandya.
This is Dr. Patnaik.
Yes. After that, Professor Pandya. Yes, sir. Please.
I must compliment the Secretary for a nice overview how India and Africa, they have been a friend. But my one query, not a question, to India-Africa friendship older than Arab-Israel war. And now we have BRICS, in which the adversary China is in the group, including a major African country. So, sir, my query is that how BRICS is helping India further in having a good diplomatic relationship with entire Africa. And this, how BRIC is supplementing it. Because our friendship is older than Arab-Israel war in 60s. And the second, my query is that because there has been quite a few Islamic terror outfits in Africa. Do they pose any threat to India? These are my two queries for you, sir. Not a question, but for our knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Very interesting questions. You said we have in BRICS, we have an adversary with us. You see, life is never in shades of black and white. Life always operates in shades of gray. I think it's not a question of looking at China purely as an adversary. If you look at China, it is our second largest trading partner. I mean, we have over $100 billion worth of trade with China. We have the BRICS cooperation. We have a lot of cooperation, for example, in the AIIB, the Asian Investment Bank, which is headquartered in Shanghai. We are on the same side, if you look at it in the larger picture, on issues related to, for example, climate change, and on issues related to larger picture, on issues related to, for example, climate change, and on issues related to larger picture, on issues related to, for example, climate change, that is the World Bank, and on issues related to larger picture, on issues related. There is a lot of cooperation that takes place between India and China. I think our the war with China in 1962, it has left an indelible mark on the psyche, on the Indian psyche as a whole. And every time we talk of China, one tends to go back to 1962. Of course, the present continuing issue with China on the border is also something that bothers us. But that we are also countering in the sense China in a lot of multinational, in a lot of multilateral bodies. We have been it's actually a competition and collaboration that has to go together hand in hand. Our relations with Africa are not older than the Arab-Israel war. Our relations with Africa go back millennia. I think we have a lot of trade that took place in the as back as the 2nd century AD. We have trade linkages 2nd and 3rd century AD between India and the eastern coast of Africa. For example, Zanzibar was something that was known to the Indians for a very long time. We have had trade with Zanzibar between Gujarat and Zanzibar since 3rd, 4th century. It's not a new relationship; it's a very old relationship. On the issue of Islamic terror, there is right from the Horn of Africa. If you look at Somalia down to Mozambique, there is a growing threat of Islamic terror. And this is something that we have been talking to the African countries about. During the course of my talk, I spoke about gifting of fast interceptor boats to Mozambique. We also, we've gifted them 2 in 2018 and 2 more now. We have an investment over $9 billion in that country, in Mozambique, in coal, in oil. And therefore, that coast is important to us. We also have Indian communities living all across the eastern coast of Africa, like I said, Kenya, South Africa, Tanzania, Uganda, and their safety and welfare is also an important element to us. We have been offering high-tech related courses in security, in police training, in military training to all these African countries to help them fight their own cause. We have, for example, Indian military training teams in 7 countries which are present in Africa. We have them in Uganda, we have them in Mozambique, we have them in Tanzania, and we are looking forward to having more of our training teams to provide training, counter-insurgency training, and peace and security related trainings to on the spot in those countries. But we also have a lot of defense related high-tech courses. that we invite people to come and attend in India. Essentially, capacity building is what we are looking at, and that is something which we are really proud of in terms of our capacity building that we offer to the continent of Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Very rightly said that life doesn't always operate in black and white. In most of the part, it acts also in the gray area. And as far as diplomacy is concerned, that is much more correct. So now we'll take a question from Professor Pandya.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. And my question to Mr. Kundal is that, sir, at the last part of your speech, you mentioned about that all our investment plans, they are quite democratic. We do it in a very transparent manner and all that. My question, not a question, but I will request you to summarize particularly what, because we are proud of our democracy. We are the largest democracy in the world. Now, what are what are we doing particularly in fostering democracy in the African continent?
I wish, Professor, I had a simple answer to your question. It says we have. I can speak about our development assistance. That, for example, I can talk of the 205 lines of credit. I can talk of $12 billion. I can talk of the 50,000 scholarships that we have offered to Africa. I can talk of the development of. We've done over 351 projects all across the African continent to cover power plants, hydroelectricity, power transmission, dams, roads, railways, ports, agriculture, irrigation, industrial units, skill development, civil construction, telecommunications, defense. We have a huge amount. The portfolio is huge that covers our developmental cooperation with the continent of Africa, with all the 54 countries of the African continent. And like I said, that our development model is based on the needs that have been projected to us by the recipient government. We work on that. We have. I can give you some very typical examples. The Kosti Power Project, for example, in Sudan, it provides 1/3 of the country's power. Similarly, the Nyaborongo project in Rwanda, which I visited in November with our minister, it provides 1/4 of the country's power. We have several projects that are the first ever projects for that country, which, for example, includes the first cement plant of Djibouti, the first milk processing plant in Mauritania, the first ever sugar factory in Ghana. Your second part of the question, which relates to what are we doing to foster democracy in these countries, my answer is that we leave them to work out their own arrangements. The India offers a democratic model of development. We know that when India got independence, we were a food dependent country. We were a country which was totally dependent on external assistance. We were a country which was a very, very poor country. The change has happened in India over the past 75 years in a slow and a sustained manner. And today, we are the 5th largest economy in the world. We are the 3rd largest economy in PPP terms. We are the 5th or the 6th largest economy in real terms. We have a huge industrial base. We have a huge defense base. We are an IT superpower. Our educational universities are among the best in the world. We attract students from all across the world. But we have not been in the business of exporting our political model abroad. I think it is for every country to decide what they want to do. Even several countries in Europe have been through dictatorships. I mean, and I speak Portugal, I speak Spain. Germany we know it's less than 50 years have passed of the German experience, for example. We know what happened in Spain. We know what happened in Portugal. It's I think every country needs to arrive at its own model of development, on its own model of governance. We do not we're not in the business of exporting our political model abroad.
Thank you, sir. Very rightly, actually, you have told, even in Bipan Chandra's The Epic Struggle, he has very rightly pointed out that in spite of all difficulties or all negative things, India has survived the democracy. In many countries, it has extinguished. So in that respect, and I have seen in my own eyes that in front of the Indian High Commission office in Kampala, there is a very beautiful eye hospital made by the alumni of AIMS. So India has its own model, very rightly explained. Actually, it has removed many of our misconceptions. We will take only one question from Kinuthia of Kenya. Yes, Kinuthia.
Thank you, most distinguished Dr. Sharma, Your Excellency, Ambassador Sir. I'm very happy for that great inspiration. The facts you've presented are accurate. I'm from Kenya. I'm Kinuthia, taking LLB BBA. I wish to support your point that what you've presented is in fact true. And as Africans, even back home in Kenya, we're happy when we see our Indian brothers across the streets. They run the industries, they have the universities, Aga Khan University in Kenya and Pisha Hospital. Of Kenya, one notable Indian professor was Professor Yashpal Ghai, who assisted our country in the constitution making process. My question to you, sir, is how can we be active engagements to safeguard the gains that India has made to Africa, because we are safer in Indian hands, because your model is a bit better and there is freedom to trade and everything and to expand. How can we be active ingredients to safeguard the gains that India has made? And above everything, we wish to thank you. We thank the Study in India program. We thank you. And dear Prime Minister Modi, we thank you for such great incentives. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your kind words. If you can see this glass, it says Kenya at 50. I'm indeed privileged to say that to my friend from Kenya that I was present for the 50th Independence Day of Kenya in 2013. And President Kenyatta, in his gifts to all the delegations, this glass which says Kenya at 50 is one of the gifts that I carried back from Kenya. So Kenya has a special place in my heart. It's a matter of great satisfaction for us that India-Kenya relations are on an even keel. We've had regular telephonic conversations. Our foreign minister spoke to the Kenyan foreign minister about 5-7 days back. We've had the great interaction between the President Kenyatta and Prime Minister Modi. They've had telephonic conversations. They have exchanged messages. Our foreign minister visited Kenya last year, and India also helped in the upgradation of the Rivatex factory, which today provides jobs to over 2,000 people in Nairobi. We also have a huge defense relationship, and we have a training team, a military training team, which is present in Kenya. Kenya is also keen today to buy defense equipment from India. We also support the Kenyan candidate for example, for the Secretary Generalship of the Commonwealth. It is a relationship which is a brilliant relation. It's a relationship of the future. We are happy to share our development experience with Kenya. If there is anything specific that you need, the government of Kenya or the people of Kenya require from us, you can rest assured that we will go the extra mile to help our Kenyan brothers and sisters. Thank you.
There is a last question we will take in the chat box. Sagnet Mengistu Abebe is doing PhD in management. He has a question. Why is India not promoting intercultural relations with Africans and teaching Hindi to international students?
Very good question.
Hindi, one of the policies of the government of India has been to expand the growth of Hindi and the usage of Hindi in India itself. I mean, let me just point out that this seminar itself is taking place in English. I think one reason that, of course, is that it has an international dimension, but English continues to be our official language in the country. Although there's a lot of focus that has been given to the growth and development of Hindi. We celebrate the Hindi Day all across our embassies, all across the world. Most of our embassies all across the world also have Hindi classes to teach the local audiences in Hindi. We also have scholarships for studying Hindi, and from my previous experience as ambassador in Tunisia, we sent 4 students to Agra to study the language in India. I think the best way to learn Hindi is to watch Bollywood, is to watch Hindi cinema and learn Hindi. I think no government can teach Hindi better than what Bollywood can do. Thank you.
Yes, very rightly said, sir. Actually, it will be befitting on the occasion that I will request John Bravo Murungi, who is doing his final year BTech in civil engineering, who is from Uganda, to kindly accord the vote of thanks. And before that, I have got a request to you, sir. So kindly send this write-up in my mail, so that we will be compiling all these lectures. Once this will be 25 lectures, the last lecture, 25th lecture, will be by the Indian ambassador to Tanzania, Vinay Srikant Pradhan. After that, we will compile all these lectures, annual commemorative volume. And so I will request you to kindly send this lecture, the write-up, to me, so that we can edit, and again I will send it back for your final correction, and then we will put up a commemorative volume for our viewers and for our audience and for everybody to preserve it. So I request John Bravo Murungi to kindly accord the vote of thanks. Yes, please unmute your microphone.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Am I audible that side, sir?
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you so much. It's indeed a great pleasure to me and to the whole audience. And it is indeed a gratitude to us all. And to me, specifically to accord the vote of thanks to Mr. Puneet Kundal, IFS, Joint Secretary, East and South African Division, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, for sparing his much valuable time to address this great gathering. It has indeed been a lecture, I would say, full of inspirational talks and quotes and real facts I must mention. As an international student from the African continent, specifically Uganda, to mention, I can immensely confirm and once again extend my sincere appreciation to the government of India for much further that it has done in upholding the education system of Africa. Personally, like I've just said, I'm from Uganda, and that's the pearl of Africa. I have benefited from the 3,500 scholarships our invited chief guest has just mentioned, and particularly under the scheme of study in India. Our invited chief guest also mentioned about the 26,000 students that are studying in India from Africa, from Kenya, our colleague just said, and Ethiopia, to mention but a few. It is indeed a real fact that India is the pharmacy of the world, because I've already witnessed this in my country, Uganda, where it has been able to overcome the surge of COVID-19, depending on the donations of the vaccines from India. It is indeed, once again, a pleasure and another eye-touching fact to share that India is one of the leading nations in supporting the economy of most of the African countries. Like the guest speaker mentioned about the infrastructure development that can eventually be evidenced even by the monument of Mahatma Gandhi at the riverbanks of the Nile, which is the longest river in the world, I must mention. From at the bottom of my understanding and pleasure, I extend sincere vote of thanks to you, respected Sir Mr. Puneet Kundal, for delivering such a beautiful, resourceful, and inspirational talk. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Namaskar, sir. Namaskar for your
Thank you so
kind
much.
presence. So, on behalf of the university, I extend a warm, heartfelt gratitude to you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Thanks, Dr. Sharma.